My name is Clara, and I'm a nursing student. I'm used to studying late, so I'm not really scared to be out late at night. This happened back in 2018, in October. It was around 10:30 p.m. It was raining outside. Not a huge downpour, just this steady, quiet drizzle that was making the city wet. I'd come to Walmart because I needed to pick up some new scrubs for myself, and also a specific kind of energy drink they only carry there. I went straight to the clothing section, which is usually dead empty. I was quickly browsing through the uniforms when I got that feeling. That deep, unsettling awareness that someone is watching you. It wasn't the jumpy feeling you get when you see a stranger, but that gross, heavy sense that someone's eyes are actually touching you. I turned around. There was a young guy standing just a few feet away, right behind a rack of jeans. He was kind of hiding his eyes, like he was trying to look at me, but also trying to conceal himself. The moment I turned, he immediately pulled out his phone and started staring at it, like he was doing something super important. I decided to ignore it and went back to looking at the shirts. The second I picked one up, I heard the sound of his footsteps on the floor. When I looked again, he was gone. I sighed with relief, but that didn't last long. When I turned the corner from home goods toward the beverages section, he was there again. He was standing right on the edge of the cleaning supplies aisle, and this time he wasn't looking at his phone. He was just standing there, and as I walked past, he gave a slight nod. Okay, this wasn't a coincidence anymore. It was clear he was following me. I decided to pull myself together. I sped up and basically jogged to the energy drink rack. My plan was to grab two and bolt straight for the cashier. I leaned down to grab the drinks off the shelf when I heard his voice right in my ear. He was so close I could hear him breathing. In a really quiet but hard voice, he said, "White looks really good on you, Clara. Nursing is your future. You're gonna have to like this color." Hearing that just froze my entire body. He didn't just say my name. He knew my profession. He had suddenly closed the distance between us. This was harassment. Total, personal, terrifying harassment. I jerked back in a panic, trying to create a big gap between us. I said, "Look, I'm calling the cops. Don't touch me." He put his finger to his lips. His face was finally clear in the light. He looked completely emotionless, but his eyes had this intense, focused attention that just terrified me. He slowly placed a small folded piece of paper he was holding right into the cart with my scrubs. "Take a look at that. Your address. The window to your room. I know which light you leave on at night. And yeah, your shift changed? Is that stressing you out too much?" I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. This wasn't just following. This was complete profiling. He knew everything about me. Now he wasn't just a threat at Walmart. He was a threat to my home. I didn't waste a second. I left my little cart right there and sprinted toward the cash registers. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. I ran past the long lines and got to the one open cashier, who was a woman. I yelled, "I need a phone. Get me outside. A man is following me. He has my address." As I reached the front of the register, I looked back. The guy was standing right where I'd run from. He was next to my cart, holding the new uniform I had left behind. The white one he said looked good on me. He held the shirt up toward my face, then slowly smiled, a weird, empty smile. He put the shirt back in the cart, and then he just turned away. He disappeared down an aisle inside Walmart like he was part of another world. The police came and took a report, but he didn't show up clearly on the cameras, and they never found any record of him. I left my scrubs and the energy drinks there that night. I still don't know who he was, but ever since that night, the curtain to my apartment window is always closed, and I always look over my shoulder twice when it's raining, because I know he knew every detail, and the way he harassed me was incredibly personal and absolutely terrifying. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Also, let me know in the comments how you found the video. Now, let's move on to the next story.
I still remember that night. It was September, and it had been raining all day. I was on the overnight stocking team at a Walmart right outside my city in Georgia. My name is Aaron. Usually, after 11 p.m., the whole store was basically mine. But the vibe that night was off. It was just me and two other guys, an older gentleman, Mr. David, who did the cleaning, and Chris, who worked a lot more hours than me. Jen, the manager, had clocked out at 11. Chris was a little late because of the rain, getting in around 11:30 p.m. By that time, I'd already stocked the cereal boxes in aisle 7. Chris had to handle the electronics and home goods sections. We just said hi and got straight to work. The store was silent, except for the sound of Chris's cart squeaking and the heavy rain splattering outside. It must have been about 1:30 a.m. I was in the pet food section when I heard a really strange rustling sound. It sounded like a person walking from aisle 12, which had all the lawn and garden equipment, over into aisle 11. I stopped and listened. As far as I knew, Chris was supposed to be in electronics, and Mr. David was probably in the back rooms. I called Chris quietly on the walkie-talkie. "Chris, are you around here?" No answer. I tried again, a little louder. Then Chris finally replied, his voice a bit scratchy. "Nah, man, I'm still mounting TVs. What's up?" "Nothing, just checking." I turned off the walkie-talkie. Now I knew something was wrong. If Chris wasn't there, who was? This Walmart was huge, and shoplifting wasn't exactly rare here. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself. My first reaction was to run straight to the security office and check the cameras, but that was all the way on the other side of the store. I left my pet food cart right there and started walking slowly toward aisle 11. My heart was pounding, but I kept telling myself to stay cool. It was probably just some homeless guy hiding from the rain. But how did the automatic doors open? When I peeked around the corner of the aisle, I saw him. Standing right between aisle 11 and aisle 12, exactly where I heard the noise, was a tall guy. His face wasn't very clear in the dim store lighting, but he definitely wasn't wearing a Walmart uniform. He was in a plain dark t-shirt and track pants. In his hands was a long, thin, shiny object. It looked like some kind of tool you'd find in the lawn and garden section. I froze for a second. I was about to back away when he looked up and saw me. The very next moment, he didn't exactly run, but he moved fast and not toward me. He bolted toward the tools and hardware section. Why would he go there now? I flipped on the walkie-talkie and just said, "Call Jen, now. Guy inside, hardware." Then, not caring what Chris might think, I grabbed my cart and shoved it out of the way. I decided to make a break for the cameras. I got to the main aisle, but there was a disturbing change there too. In aisle 1, where all the cold drinks and cigarettes are, all the plastic bottles were scattered across the floor. It looked like someone had deliberately knocked the whole rack over. Now it was clear this guy wasn't just here to steal. He was here to cause destruction. As I was running toward the front end, which was maybe 5:20 a.m., I saw him riding a pallet jack at full speed, heading right for Chris's cart in the produce section. Poor Chris was focused on his work, totally oblivious. I screamed, "Chris, look out!" The man looked at me for a second, his face fully illuminated this time. A completely normal, blank face, but with intense anger in his eyes. He didn't stop. He swerved the pallet jack and slammed it right into Chris's cart. Chris cried out and fell to the floor. Before I could even react, the guy ditched the pallet jack and ran. He turned toward Chris, who was trying to get up, and raised that shiny object in his hand. I realized it was a large box cutter over his head. I snatched a broom from a nearby display and charged at him with all my strength. I swung the broom and hit the guy's hand. The tool clattered away, and he just stared at me. There was no fear on his face, only a terrifying smile. Then he turned and ran for the emergency exit. The door burst open, and the rain blew inside. He didn't hesitate for a moment, disappearing into the dark, rainy night. I stood there, shaking, holding the broom, and helped Chris get up. Chris had a bruise on his arm, probably from the pallet jack hitting him. The police arrived at 5:45 a.m. They listened to my story, questioned Chris, and called Jen. It wasn't a robbery or a normal theft. The guy didn't take a single thing from the store. He only caused damage and tried to attack us. To this day, the guy has never been identified. Every time I see someone who isn't wearing a Walmart uniform, I think back to that night, when a completely average-looking stranger turned a normal night into a nightmare. My name is Eva, and that night is still like a deep, heavy scar for me. I just needed to buy some paper towels and a toothbrush. That's it. Who knew a routine 9 p.m. grocery run would turn into a total nightmare? The rain was coming down so hard the noise on the glass ceiling was deafening. I was completely drained after my college classes. I put my hood up and walked through the automatic Walmart doors. It felt weirdly stuffy and close inside compared to the cold and rain outside. I quickly grabbed one of those small shopping carts and went straight to the paper goods section. The store was strangely quiet, like the rain had swallowed all the noise. When I got to the aisle, for a second, I thought I saw someone on the other side of the shelf. Just a quick rustle, and then nothing. I didn't pay any attention to it. I picked up a mega pack of towels and tossed it into the cart. As I turned toward toiletries, I saw a guy behind me. He wasn't looking at me. He was just this average-age guy wearing really neat iron slacks and a light-colored shirt. His face looked super familiar, like someone you've seen 1,000 times at the local corner store. Then he started staring at me with this weird, calm smile. I quickly looked away. I grabbed a toothbrush and was about to leave when he slowly walked up and stopped right by my cart. He said, "Is that you, Eva? Eva Martin?" My feet stopped dead. My name wasn't on an employee tag or anything. I'd never met him before. Panicked, I asked, "Excuse me, who are you?" "No big deal," he smiled, but that smile was still totally unnerving. "I just thought you were the girl. Does your dad know you're here right now?" "What do you mean?" I said. My heart started hammering because he had not only used my full name but mentioned my dad. I knew he wasn't a regular customer. He knew me on a personal level, and it freaked me out. Before I could say anything else, he set down a Walmart plastic bag he was holding. I heard the sound of a glass bottle clinking inside. Then he said, "I've been looking for you for a while. Actually, I needed to talk to you about something important." About your brother, James." It felt like a heavy weight landed on my chest. My brother James was sentenced a year ago for a small drug case. Only my very close friends and family knew about that. How did this stranger know about my family's biggest trouble? Without looking at it, I pulled out my phone, pretending to check a message. I was trying to dial 911, but my hands were shaking. I said, "I don't want to talk to you about this. I'm leaving." I started walking fast, but he kept pace right behind me. His voice got even calmer and quieter, which just amplified the fear. "You have to listen to me, Eva. We're collecting James's debt from you now. My friends are waiting outside your house." Hearing that, my blood ran cold. This wasn't a shoplifter or a psycho. He was clearly some kind of gangster or debt collector. The physical danger was now not just for me, but for my parents too. I turned around. He was standing maybe 2 feet away. He smiled again and said, "Come with me. Your family won't get hurt. Otherwise," he smiled and reached inside his coat. I didn't see anything, but the gesture was a clear, unmistakable threat. I didn't waste a second. I shoved my cart with all my strength right into his legs. The cart made him stumble, and his hand stayed inside his jacket. I quickly grabbed my phone and sprinted like lightning toward the front entrance. "Stop, Eva!" he yelled angrily, his voice echoing through the Walmart now. I ran past the checkout lanes and ducked behind the customer service counter. A young guy was standing there, looking totally freaked out. I practically screamed at him, "Call the police! That man is going to hurt me!" As I caught my breath, I saw him again, peeking around the corner of aisle 1. He was standing perfectly straight, but his calm smile was gone. He looked furious, his eyes tense. He looked at me, then picked up a piece of hardware, a tool from a nearby shelf. It wasn't huge, but he was holding it and walking slowly toward me. The bright, open Walmart felt like a prison now. I quietly ran deeper into the aisles, considering hiding in the employee-only door, but then I remembered he said his friends were outside. The rain and those guys outside, and this man inside. I grabbed the handle of a fallen cart on the ground, spun it, and pushed it toward the electronics section. I ran and hid in the long corridor behind the cash registers. I could hear his heavy footsteps closing in behind me. I knew he wasn't going to let me go easily. This threat was because of my family, and the consequences could be terrifying. I crouched there, holding my breath with the sound of the rain still beating down outside. I knew, until a manager or the police arrived, I was stuck in a nightmare, a completely unexpected and potentially lethal game. And he was getting closer.
It was a cold night in November. The sky was pouring down. The rain wasn't just loud, it was like a solid wall cutting through everything. I'm Jacob, and this was around 1 a.m., right in the middle of my shift. I wasn't part of the regular overnight stocking team. I was a freelancer hired by big companies to do inventory audits. Walmart had brought me in for a week just to count all their stock. That night, it was just me, Tim the manager, who was locked up in his office, and 2 older stockers. Tim had told me on his way out, "Jacob, the camera system's working, but until 4 a.m., I'm the only manager here. Keep it quiet." I started working in the automotive section. It was the darkest, most isolated part of the store. Tim had given me this old handheld scanner that kept cutting out. When I was counting in aisle 24, where they kept the engine oil and fluids, around 1:45 a.m., I had to stop to change the scanner's battery. That's when I first realized I might not be alone. At the end of the automotive section, near the loading dock, there was a big metal shelf that separated the area. I heard footsteps around the corner of that shelf, a heavy, dragging sound. The guy wasn't walking, he was slowly shuffling. I turned off my flashlight and held my breath. I thought maybe it was one of the stalkers, but they were supposed to be in the grocery section, way across the store. Then I heard a cold, harsh sound, like metal grating on metal. It was the sound of a heavy wrench or a tool being dragged across the floor. That sound was getting closer. I gently put the scanner down and crawled behind the tire racks. I immediately felt like this wasn't just a thief or some drunk guy. People who work here know how to move quietly. This was a slow, deliberate noise. When he turned the corner of the shelf, I saw him. He was taller than me, wearing a dark hoodie that completely obscured his face. In one hand, he had a large, old, rusty pipe wrench that he was dragging on the floor, and in the other, a heavy, old fire extinguisher. He wasn't walking. He was kind of leaning to one side in this really strange gait. He was looking for something, and I was pretty sure it was me. He wasn't looking at merchandise or a cash register. He was coming straight down the path where I'd been counting. I tried to get my phone out, but I knew if I made the slightest movement, he'd see me. I thought I heard the distinct sound of his foot hitting the spot where I'd left my counting equipment. He stopped, right there. Then, what happened next sent a shiver down my spine. He pulled the pin on the fire extinguisher and squeezed the handle. White powdery smoke started filling the entire aisle. It wasn't just smoke, it was like a physical curtain of silence over the aisle. The smoke made it really hard to stay hidden. Panicked, I pulled my hood up and made a break for it, bolting out from behind the tire racks, running the wrong way. I ran, but he yelled from behind me, his voice booming and totally human. "Count it! Go on! Count it!" That noise just made my entire body shake. I was running, and I saw that he had ditched the wrench and was running toward me, spraying the fire extinguisher smoke in my path. There was no cursing or threatening in his voice, just this horrifying obsession. I turned and ran toward the main aisle, and he was right behind me. He wasn't trying to scare me with a tool. He clearly wanted to cause physical harm. His speed was unnatural, like he knew exactly where to go before he even started running. When I got to the frozen food section, I panicked and grabbed a big glass bottle and threw it behind me. The guy just ducked and let the bottle pass, and then he slammed his hand hard against the wall. There was a loud thud. I finally saw Tim's office door near the pharmacy. I ran full out for the door and pushed it open, diving inside. I tried to slam the door shut from the inside, but he was too close. He shoved his hand into the doorway. I saw blood on his knuckles, probably from hitting the wall. He was pulling the door with all his strength, and I was holding on to the handle for dear life. He screamed through the gap in the door, "I'm gonna make you count, Jacob! I'm gonna make you count everything!" His booming sentence and the rain outside were ringing in my ears. I shoved the door hard, trapping his hand, and he yelled out a harsh curse. I immediately threw the security chain on. I sat inside, my chest heaving and sweat dripping off me. Tim looked at me, terrified, then at the door. I managed to gasp, "Call the police! There's a guy in here! He's crazy!" The door was secured, but even over the rain outside, I heard the sound of his heavy footsteps walking away. He didn't take anything from Walmart. He just wanted to stop my audit, stop my presence, erase me. To this day, whenever I look at a Walmart, I remember that white powder and that guy's booming voice who wanted me to count, but with blood.